excited to have you here. We have two more guests. I think when we'll have them when they come in, but I think we're good to go with three of you. Welcome, Dr. Chitowana, Dr. Awai Collins from England, Dr. Chitowana in Abuja, Nigeria, and Mrs. Datari Ladejo here in Lagos. Um, and I, Obi Pax-Harry, welcome you to Women's Day conversation. Uh, we're gonna go right into the conversation. So this year's theme is quite exciting: uh, diversity and inclusion. Um, diversity and inclusion. I just wanted to ask you, leaders, because somebody could be watching this and they're wondering who are these women. I specifically invited you because of who you are, what you do, what you believe, and there's a lot, of activities that surround the International Women's Day, um, and there is a lot of work. A lot of women's groups, organizations, have been working tirelessly on issues of inclusivity all over the world, and basically the just how women issues are dealt with. Sorry, I'm just figuring out how to get a screen off here so I can see Mrs. Ladejo. So I'd like to ask ladies that please, in introduction, I could introduce you, but I just want you in just following the theme of Women's Day, Women's Month, celebration of women, the womanhood, and what the woman represents, and the voice of the woman being heard, the essence of the woman being celebrated, who the woman is being acknowledged. I'm going to do it a different way, and I'm going to ask that each of you please tell my audience what it is, what you do, who you are, and what you do. Just very quickly in 2 or 3 minutes. If you can self-introduce, I'd really appreciate that. Starting with Dr. Chitowana. Is your mic on, Dr.
Okay, can you
Chitowana?
hear me now? Sorry.
Yes, now we can hear you now.
All right. Hello, everyone. I will start by saying Happy International Women's Day. It's such a pleasure to be here to talk about something so important. My name is Dr. Chitawana, as you heard. I am a consultant or attending, whatever you want to call it, obstetrics gynecologist. I own Tabitha Medical Center in Abuja. I'm also a very strong women's advocate, and I've done a lot of work in women's health, both in urban and rural areas. I am a believer, I'm a Christian, and I believe so much, community. As a community, we should do more, I guess, for women, especially with the theme today. So I guess I'll say more when I'm asked to say more, but that's who I am. As you can see, I love women. Pretty much, I do everything women. It's all about her when it comes to me. So that's why I'm happy to be here.
And Dr. Awai Collins, if you
Thank you, Apostle.
can
So my name is
tell us.
Dr. Owai. Okay, thank you, Apostle. My name is Dr. Owai Coons
Today
Harrison,
I'm
and
today I'm Obi Paxari. What this today I'm okay, Obi Paxari. Yes,
okay,
with
okay,
that. Yes.
okay, okay. So I am an engineer. I'm a systems engineering consultant. I'm a chartered engineer with the Engineering Council UK. I work in train control and automation. I am also co-chair of the Association for Black and Minority Ethnic Engineers in the UK, and also the program director for Rebuilding Lives project in Nigeria. Such an honor to be here. Thank you.
Great. Okay, and Mrs. Datari Ladejo, if you can just tell us about yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Happy International Women's Day in advance. I'm excited to be here this afternoon with everyone. Um, my name is Dantari Latejo. I am a lawyer, a digital strategist, a product marketer, and the CEO founder of Fernhill Digital Consulting, a digital marketing agency headquartered in Lagos. I'm also a strong women's advocate. I'm currently the Lagos chapter leader of the Women International, which is an NGO centered on empowering women. And I'm really excited to be here today. I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, and I do believe in, diversity as a divine principle. So I'm really excited to delve into this topic. And thank you so much for having me here.
Now, thank you very much. I just want everybody to be really relaxed, in discussing today, because for me, I wanted to have it, today's session, relaxed session, and I'm going to be talking about my relationship with all of you. But I just kind of feel that, it's about new voices. 2024 is all about new voices coming into conversations, voices, of peoples, no matter what it is that is being discussed this year, that it's about new voices, people who have been working in the background, in spectrums that are being highlighted. Like this month is about women. There's several women, who have been working in the background, like Dr. Chito was saying, on women issues, and many often, right, often, and many a time, where issues of societal transformation, evolving of time, and how society is run, issues that matter, social issues, you find that the church is absent really, and Christians here are invited to speak from their um, professional background and expertise, but these spaces are not occupied, as a block. So I'm not talking about, religious folk. I'm talking about Christians coming in, in the space as believers, right? And bringing the dimension, the divine dimension, like, I titled it, right? The diversity as a divine principle. So these spaces, like I said, social, issues. The church is often absent. I don't know what you think about this, because I'm just trying to break things down, so that anyone that is listening to us will be able, in Christians that are listening to us are gonna be able to jump into listen to the conversation, understanding what we're trying to, the message that I'm trying to communicate, and are able, right, after this conversation, possibly lend their expertise, their professionalism, their essence to social issues, right? So it's really diversity as a divine principle. So seeing that, anyone seeing the flyer, we know that we're Christians. But very often, what is it, ladies, for you're all of a generation that is different from mine. So also, I deliberately invited you because I believe in what I'm trying to achieve, that there are new voices that have to come into spaces. I mean, Dr. Chito, Dr. Awai, Mrs. Datari, you guys are not like new kids on the block. You have been your people that are engaged in your different professions, your frontline women. But now coming on my platform, what you do in your own spaces is being, kind of broadcast wider. And I really want to get into that as well, into what you do in your own profession, in your own space. It's really exciting that this year's focus is on inclusion and diversity. I've always been really a keen follower of International Women's Day, been involved, but this is the first time that I'm holding a conversation like like I said, coming in into the space and as a woman leader and bringing, using my platform to promote the let me say the spiritual aspect of the conversations as spiritual aspect of a conversation, rather than having the conversation the way that it's been totally 100% curated by the UN. I don't know if I've made any sense. So what I'm just trying to say is, what do you think? Do you think that the church is often absent, as a block when social issues are being discussed, you know, um, at a global level, and how can we change that? So anyone can jump in.
Well, I think in terms of the church, I think there are a lot of global issues around women and around diversity. And I don't necessarily feel that the church has been absent, but I do feel that there's room for the voice of the body of the church to be amplified a lot more. One of the prevalent issues that springs to mind is the LGBTQ plus movement that we have, going around internationally, and people being confused about their identity and confused about what gender they are and, who they want to be. I find it interesting, and it may be my personal opinion, but I find that around that conversation, there's a lot of men that are really pushing for the right to be women, which to me symbolizes that there are a lot of unique and special strengths that we have as women that we should be amplifying, and we should be empowering the women in the body of Christ to really know and understand who they are, so they step out more and their voices are not drowned out by people. It seems almost like, in some international spaces, that men understand women and the power that we hold a lot more than we do in certain situations. In my profession as a digital marketer, I handle a lot of people that are building their brands, and in speaking to women on a regular basis, I find that a lot of women are so scared and hesitant to step out and really, step out into their authority and come out and brand themselves and, step out and publicize what they're doing and speak about what they're doing externally. So I do feel that there's a space for the church to actually equip women with practical tools to be able to do that and really strengthen them to stand in their authority as, female leaders, female Christians, strong women, and be proud of it.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you've said, Mrs. Stattery. Um, in 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 my profession, I've seen a lot of women who are excellent at their jobs. They're very good at what they do, but then they tend to not want to come out and express themselves and be more vocal and be more expressive about their gifts. And I think that the church has a role to play. In the past, as a church, the corporate body of Christ generally, we've been under the impression that we should only focus on spiritual things, our own spiritual growth. But then we have been commissioned to go into the world, and we are the body of Christ. You can think of yourself as the hand or the leg, or we are all part of one body. And if we're not at the forefront where these decisions are made, where social issues are being discussed, if the church is not present and we're backstage, if you could call it that, if we're backstage being more focused about our own individual growth, then we would probably wake up 10, 15 years later and find that decisions have been made that affect us, and we haven't had the opportunity to contribute to those decisions. And this is why it's crucial, it's important that parts of the body of Christ, which is the church, are represented in these areas where decisions and social issues are being discussed and policies are being made that affect women. The body of Christ needs to be present to make sure that biblical principles are being included, biblical principles are being enacted when these policies and when these laws and when these discussions are being made.
I want to add to that very briefly, actually, because I think they've said most of what I'm thinking. It's very hard for me when you talk about global issues. You know, having lived in the U.S. and live in Nigeria, I feel that sometimes it's so hard to globally sometimes talk about things in a way because our needs are very unique. The climate is very different. The thing about I'll say about the church and how they get involved, and I know there's some issues that I don't want to rock the boat, but you know, in terms of like gender violence and things that affect women's empowerment, that the church is silent about more than we want to. But the thing about I want to say now, and one of the key things, especially what's going on in the world and in our society, is community. And I think that the church has to come out of the building and get into the community a lot more than we're doing right now. Because yes, we take care of the people that come into the church, but when our impact and the biggest impact will be made when we go out of the building into the communities. And that's how you're, I mean, I know for sure in Nigeria how you make impact. And I think the church start looking at kingdom, meaning that it's almost like each church does their own thing, and it's it kind of limits what the body of the church can do. But if they can connect as a community themselves and go into the community, then they'll make a lot of impact among women. If you look at churches in Nigeria, for example, you see that your congregation is made up by more women than men. So, you know, in many ways, I think that women's issues should be in the forefront of what the church does. You know, handling these issues, identifying women's strength, going through them through social, emotional, psychological, financial, all these things I'm mentioning is wellness of a woman, women's wellness. Like I always say, if you're not healthy, you cannot be empowered, you cannot be advanced. Inclusion is not possible with unhealthy women because you will not have the energy or the mental capacity to fulfill your purpose as a woman and what you do, whatever it is that you do. So, in those ramifications, I look at the church, I say, look, let's forget about the name of our churches and come as kingdom and enter the community to do our work because the work is in the fields more than in the building. I think that's what I will add to that.
I like the fact that you have said that the work is in the field and not in the building. I want to just push this a little bit further. Dr. Chito, your work is all about women. Dr. Awai, you know, an engineer, you know, rail line and all of that. I want to talk a little bit about that. And Datari, digital marketer, you know, now, I want to ask another question of you guys because diversity is really I believe a biblical principle, and like Dr. Chito says, inclusion is not possible when you know we're unhealthy, and one of the things that's been highlighted here well, Datari talks about the whole I call it identity issues, gender issues, and just people trying to find themselves in the evolving society. Women leadership, women with you know capacity, women that are considered strong, women that are intelligent, like you know this broadcast is coming from Nigeria. I have grown up in three different continents and work in three different continents, and I see you know cultural trends playing out in the handling and dealing of societal issues that are so critical, like you know gender violence has been mentioned here and how it is processed from place to place. The whole thing about you know the woman issue, women affairs is so huge. You know it is massive, and like has been mentioned, even statistics, wherever you go you're going to have more women. Say hi, hi there, Honorable Dio Benjamin Slani has joined us incidentally. She's the Mandate Secretary, Women Affairs, Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. So she's got a mandate to make sure that issues, you know, to do with women, you know, are taken care of. So what better panel can I have than the one that I have here? So taking this conversation, you know, further. I want to ask a question, and anyone can dive in. Well, it will be good to catch your perspective, Honorable Dio, Benjamin Slani, you just from your context, your mandate being in charge of women and children in an entire state, entire territory. So we're looking at the fact, Dio, that women issues should really be taken more seriously, whether by legislation, whether by policy, whether by even spiritual things. And I asked a question. I kind of teasing this out from my remarkable panel by asking that question, that is the church really taking her place in social issues as a block? All right, so we have women like yourselves, right, like Christian women doing great job, doing great, like impacting society from your professional and your professional side of things. Your expertise is helping to better society. But here I have on my screen, 4 women that are doing that. So I'm asking, do we think that the church is able to occupy these places as a block, maybe even as denominations come together? So there have been different perspectives here about social issues and how we can get involved, and whether we're getting involved or not. And Datare brought out the point that our voices are needed to be amplified, that the church is actually connecting with society, if I want to put it that way. But here's where I want to take this conversation, and you can dive in on Honorable Dio. The fact that I said, like, I work through 3 different cultures, and how issues are received and dealt with, whether by policy, whether by just cultural trends. Women and children's issues so different in the different these different continents. Like I said, why you're all the way in the UK, and you're the vice president. I want to get it right because it's such an important position. So you're the vice president of the Society of Engineers. Please help me out here.
It's the co-chair for the Association for Black and Minority Ethnic Engineers.
In the UK.
Yes.
Right. And from what I understand, there's over 500 engineers in this association, right?
There are over 2,000 engineers who are individual members of this
Oh
organization.
wow! So I undershot by 1,500 engineers. So over 2,000 engineers, and here you are. You're a woman, and you're the co-chair. And I also want. I'm going somewhere with this. And you are an engineer, and I think your expertise is in railway. I don't want to get it wrong again. Can you tell me your?
So my background is in control engineering, and currently my current industry is rail, but it could change at any time. So I could work in aerospace, automotive, defense, but currently I'm in rail.
Amazing. And you're a woman.
Yes.
Yes.
So, Honorable Dio, dive in.
All right, so let me dive in first by celebrating you, the apostolic birthday celebrating our Mama Apostle. I'm happy to celebrate this season. Thank you very much, all of us that your really your speaking in us and through us in our
Wow, the
space.
internet is really exciting where you are.
You can't hear me. Oh dear, and it's not. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, so okay, very quickly, I was just doing a birthday shout out in arrears. Next, to after, diving into the conversation. First and foremost, Mom, as we say, like Data was talking about our voices being amplified, looking at the question of identity, the challenge of the different gender agendas, transgender, and all of that. And of course, like you have said, your tripartite expression in terms of your global identity. Dr. Chito talking about the church bringing community being more directed in our trajectory and building community. And I, my thoughts going around the conversation was one thought that came to me is, first of all, in the place of identity, who am I? And who I am community. Wherever I go, I carry kingdom. So I am community. Community is something necessarily that the church needs to do. It's what we are. It's what we are. If Jesus, child, told um, gave a definition of the church, said, Peter, who gave you the understanding of my identity? He said, you are Peter, the rock, and upon this rock I will build my church. I will build the the congregation, the identity of who we are as His image and likeness, His Christ persona, through every generational crisis that nations, communities, families, and personal identities would continue to posit and present as we come into the last days of which He has described to us, when men will become the image and likeness of God. So in that context, I'm like, well, I am community. I bring the DNA of my community, which is tripartite in the threefold persona of God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I've come into a very unique opportunity and platform of engagement by assignment that has grown from the place of callings, exposure to opportunities and platforms through speakership, uh, and also the migration of um, my being Lagos born, Ibadan school, university, and finally coming to do my youth corps in Abuja, and then finding that my entire transitions have come to this place now, where the deepest root, the tap root, is coming out of this particular location. The real challenge for me, therefore, in my assignment is through the lifestyle values that I represent as the community identified with, my community of faith. It's not by my tribe, it's not by my gender, it's by the faith I apply without it becoming divisive, without it becoming accusatory. I am situated in north central Nigeria, which means even though the capital city is the intersection of all Nigeria, most of us here, do you understand, they have Nigeria from everywhere. Indigenous themselves only make up about 17%. But what we very strong influence culturally, socio-culturally, of what is the northern psyche, northern cultural ethos. But in the city center, what we call the Abuja Municipal Area Council area, the city center, we have the culture, we have all of us. And then you now bring this together, and you've got to understand, I've come to recognize now, Dio, you are a bridge. You cannot become a bridge. In the place of politics, I emerged option. From that district, I have beneficiary, want to call it that, of appointeeship. But that appointeeship, is it about a party? No. Is it about my religion? No. Is it about my gender? No. It's the opportunity. Now, what I choose, how I now translate my DNA, which thinks of kingdom through every place of engagement with my with peer, meet own new peership now in this assignment. It's a different interaction. People coming into the civil service as a public, not having background, coming from entrepreneurship. Um, um, it's like, where's she coming from? But then after the question, where is she coming from? Things begin to happen in terms of the connection. I realize this this brings connection that builds community for me around me. And that is why As church, I am church. I am community. I'm not just Dio. I am Apostle Bobby Pax-Harry. I am Olatunde Benjamin's Lani. I am all of you, my sisters. I'm much more than that. I am a legacy I must leave. But I've come. Who am I with that? Who am I when tenure is done? And when it's done, what legacy is going to see? And being a pioneer public servant for a secretariat that's never 48 years in the intersect, what when it's all done? And for me, that the scripture that says, if the foundation be destroyed, what righteous do? I now say the other way, the flip, the spirit brought it to me is that, so now that the righteous can build a foundation, what can't the righteous do? Dio, be led by the spirit, be alert, vigilant, be sober. This is my reality. And every day I get up, I have a Yoruba prayer that's called Olomba me to that God, please help me keep arranging it like a great Lego. Just help me keep putting it together, because I realize it has to be even so community, yes, all of these things, but the greatest banner over it all is love. And the only kind of love that really drives and directs us in this course, whether as women, as leaders, shaping our world and the whole world through us, is just the power of Christ and the mother that has given us the power of fellowship. Thank you.
Amazing. So you are really empowering women leaders in faith, entrepreneurship, governance. I want to ask a question, direct question, because I'm also trying to bring out, like you said, a new platform set up, for you, mandate totally, and you're coming out in your identity and doing what you got to do. So that reminds me of Dr. Chito being the first female, well, she's going to describe that. I want to ask this question. I want to ask this question because our theme is empowering female leaders in faith, entrepreneurship, and governance. As a leader, what initiatives have you undertaken to promote mentorship? Honorable Dios just told us all of that, Pastor Dio. Mentorship and support for other women aspiring to leadership positions, particularly those from underrepresented communities. What initiatives have you undertaken to promote mentorship and support for other women aspiring to leadership positions, particularly those from underrepresented
For me,
communities? Remember, we're talking about this is for Dr. Awai, Dr. Chito Ladijo. You have really captured this, right? So, I would like to hear from you, Dr. Awai Collins and Dr. Chito and Miss Datari Ladijo. So, as leaders, women leaders, making a difference in your spheres, what initiatives have you undertaken to promote mentorship and support for other women aspiring to leadership positions, particularly those from underrepresented communities?
Okay. So I'll go first if that's okay.
Okay.
Um, I believe mentorship is crucial. I strongly believe that everyone needs a mentor, and not just one mentor, at least one mentor, but more than one if possible. So there are mentors for different purposes.
Yeah.
Personally, I have benefited from mentorship throughout my career and throughout my I would say post university life. Um, what I do, so my organization partners with another organization called When Females Lead. It's an organization in Zambia, and they have this program they run every year. I think this is the third cohort we've worked with them on, and what they do is that they get 10 women in Zambia, and they run this Innovate Her mentoring program. So it's not just mentoring, there's the coaching aspect. But my organization provides the mentors in the UK for these girls in Zambia who have just come out of university, who are just starting out life, starting out their careers. And over the past three cohorts we've done. So the first time we had 10 girls from Zambia, and then the second time we had about 30, and now we've just started again, another 30. And I've always had the privilege of mentoring for each of those, of being a mentor for one of these girls in each of those cohorts. And I can tell you that in as much as I was the mentor, I did learn a lot from these ladies, because you learn a lot about how people's backgrounds, different things that they've had through their lives, and how it has shaped them and brought them to where they are. And also, you provide that support for them to grow in their career. And what I've found with most of these women is that they're brilliant. Because this program, the way when females lead, select the women, it's very competitive. So they select the best of the best. So you're actually mentoring women who are brilliant, who are driven. Some of them are in Harvard, some are in MIT, and you look at their CVs, and even you are inspired. You would like potentially like them to mentor you, and reverse mentor you. So you mentor these women, and you find that irrespective of their achievements and their drive, they're very I don't know the word to use. They're not confident. They're not able to project these achievements that they've had. And I had one who I was mentoring, and I had the privilege of helping her through. She had the scholarship to go to Cambridge. She got into Cambridge, finished her master's there. And in all the time that she was there, she always felt intimidated, and she wasn't able to compete, not academically, but mentally with her colleagues. And this is something that I think that we need to, this is some work I think that we need to do for our fellow women, to promote this mentorship and to help them. So it's not a case of women not being high achievers. That's not the issue. It's a case of helping them to portray what they have achieved, and even to be able to express themselves in scenarios where there are other people who haven't even achieved as much as they have, but because of backgrounds, societal issues, cultural differences, they're not able to portray themselves in that light. And I'll end with this one story. One of my mentors said to me that because she was doing her masters, they would have homework, and she would spend so long trying to do the homework, and even weeks before the deadline, her colleagues had submitted. And it wasn't because she didn't know the answer, but she wanted to always check, make sure she was right, make sure she had done everything she needed to do. And she just needed that extra push to tell her, it's enough, you've done your best, and this is good enough. You can now hand it in. So this is the kind of support that women need, mentoring, to help them come out of that shell, and to help them to be able to stand in front of a crowd and blow their own trumpets and let people know what they've achieved.
That's great. Dr. Shita?
All right. So my background is in health, and I think even from my time training in the States as a resident, I've always delved into inner city population, vulnerable population, and concern of when it comes to health outreach and stuff like that. Returning to Nigeria, I must say Nigeria is a different climate. There's so much work to do, and as many NGOs, whatever you think there are, they're not enough, not even near enough people in the field, because there's so much to do. And I feel like, first of all, before even all this initiative, I had to first of all, be spiritually mentored, because it takes a lot of faith not to give up, and courage, especially when you're faced with a lot of obstacles. Because here, helping also comes with obstacles and hurdles. It's never with ease. And I think, that of course was with Nehemiah company, with Apostle. I can't say your name without adding Apostle.
Yes, it's okay. Just be relaxed. I just want us to kind of deal with society
I was trying
as
to
it
say
is.
it's not working.
Yes. No. It's all right. It's okay. Perfectly fine
All
by
right.
me. But I just want you to all be relaxed. Yes.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that called me back to Nigeria, because we asked that question a lot, why did you leave being a gynecologist in the US to return, was the call. I think it was the call to work more in this area of women's health and women's empowerment. And so I thought, one great thing is that I got myself schooled, not only spiritually mentored, but also in leadership, when I led a group of men because I know, and I know school because it allowed me to really understand what leadership means. And I think that the elements that allowed for us to start the initiative that we have started with our with the hospital.
I think her internet is frozen there. Um, while we wait for Dr. Chito to come back in,
What we
oh, there
decided
you are. Great.
So what we decided was to go ahead and start working and adopting the primary health centers in the community, work with the government to provide that care. So that's when we initiated our Tabitha Women Rural Clinic, which we have now in one community, hoping to now move into another community that our Honorable Dio works in, has with disabled women. We're trying our much best to get into these communities and contain sustainable healthcare. Because as I always say, and every time I speak, you cannot be empowered, you cannot do anything if you're sick. Anybody that knows about chronic illness, anytime, even when you just have the flu, you just feel wasted and useless. You can't do anything. And I think for more apt when you have a lot of women suffering from not being malnourished. Right now in the community, you have women who can't even feed a day because they rather feed their kids and sometimes go a whole day without food. So we work in these communities. We've set up and worked with the clinics for more sustainable care, but we also are a shelter for women and gender violence. A lot of times now we're working with a lot, and this has increased, unfortunately, rape victims, with victims of sexual trafficking, and also just gender domestic violence. And to be able to provide standard care in this matter and be a bridge and advocate, work with others. See, collaboration and network, I want to say that is huge. You cannot do anything yourself. You have to collaborate and network with people that do other aspects of women's health and empowerment to give the woman the whole, holistic approach. So I will say generally in summary that I think as a female leader is not just about my for-profit organization, but it's how to also lift women up in the other parts and other communities as well. So networking, we also have the Hercast we just launched. Hercast is a podcast, but what we do is we call it a movement. And hopefully it will be a big movement. And yes, I know that people don't like hearing this word. I am a feminist. And that just means a woman who stands up for women's rights. And I think that just being able to have the voice and let people speak out their voice and their experience and their story is also going to inspire women as well. So I think when you talk about the initiatives we've built, because the teamwork is really a we, with me, even our program and other networking, other NGOs and people that we work with, partners and the government, is really just trying to see how healthy to provide healthcare, basic quality healthcare to women, especially pregnant women as well, and just see how we can, one community at a time, solve that problem, because there's a huge, huge problem in our own part of the world.
Wow. Brilliant. So Mrs. Data Ladeja, I'm gonna be asking you this question. How can women in leadership positions effectively, have I got you, is her internet frozen?
No, I'm here.
Right. All right. How
Freeze.
can women in leadership positions effectively challenge and change the status quo to create more inclusive environments for future generations of female leaders? It looks like frozen.
Yes, can you hear me? Okay.
We can hear you. The picture, there's just this interesting picture of you on my screen. I don't know if it's me. All
Okay.
righty.
Do you mind repeating the question for me, please?
How can women in leadership positions effectively challenge and change the status quo to create more inclusive environments for future generations of female leaders? So how are you gonna challenge, if change even culture and change the status quo to create a more inclusive environment for women that are younger than you, right? And I want you, in answering this as well, to look at how older women have been able to do this, right? I know you are a positive person, but can you look in the whole spectrum? And what we're asking that you can look globally, look at Nigeria. How can women in leadership positions effectively challenge and change the status quo, as Dr. Chito's been saying, to create more inclusive environments for future generations of female leaders? How are we going to just break molds to be able to come into spaces, to be able to change, effect change as women?
Okay, thank you for the question. I think one of the ways in which women leaders can challenge the status quo definitely is by making sure they don't abide by it, making sure that they stand true to their own principles, to their own beliefs, and don't follow the crowd. Essentially, I think there's one prevalent statement around women, especially around International Women's Day and around diversity and inclusion, and that's women empowerment, right? And I also think that one way that we can challenge the status quo as female leaders or female leaders that have gone ahead of us is to teach women, as well as giving them tools and the skills and the knowledge to be empowered, to also teach them that to have a seat at the table, to be in male dominated sectors and thrive, it's we should look to. I remember there was a I can't remember the exact person that I listened to, but I remember I was listening to a podcast, and a woman, in fact, no, I remember now, it was Mrs. Ogunlesi, the founder of Rough and Tumble Kids. And she said the reason that she was able to attain so much success was because she never saw herself as a woman. So I think also as well, we have to, and women that are mentoring younger women have to make sure that we don't use the women empowerment movement as a crutch to make us feel that we're less than men, or that, we need extra help, or we need so much support because we're the lesser gender, or there's anything that we're lacking as women. I feel that we should approach it from a position of strength, and really letting women know that if you work hard, if you have the skills, if you when opportunities are created, you are confident in those opportunities. And we also help to build those soft skills within women, so their self-confidence, working on their mental health, because for women to be able to attain these type of leadership positions and challenge the status quo, one thing that Dr. Chito said that really resonated with me is we need to be healthy. And I think that includes our mental health. And that's something that I'll come from my generation. I think I'm slightly younger than a few people on the call, but it's mental health is really important these days because women are dealing with so many different things. From a Christian perspective, as leaders, we talk about the Proverbs 31 women, and I love the Proverbs 31 women. I studied it, before I got married, whilst I got married. But I also think that as women, as well as women leaders, both as Christians and in the marketplace, we need to start teaching these principles through the lenses and distill them through the lenses of the modern context, right? I strongly believe that the Proverbs 31 woman, if she was, today, if she was one of us today, she would have a nanny. She would outsource. She would buy takeaway once in a while. And it doesn't take away from the fact that she's industrious, she's hardworking, all of the attributes that we know her to be. But we need to start teaching women that you can't be everything to everybody at the same time. And I think that's a way of challenging the status quo and the traditional concepts that we've, become so affiliated with as women and as female Christians. We need to start telling these in a modern context, in a way that resonates with the younger generation. I work with a lot of Gen Zs, and honestly, they baffle me. I'm not a Gen Z myself, but they baffle me with their, the way they think, they question things, they challenge, they don't just accept things the way that they are. So if older women, or women that have gone before or more established in their careers and in life want to really engage these people, we need to start speaking their language and in a context that resonates with them, because women these days, we're not trying to die out here. We want to do everything, but we don't want to die in the process of doing it. We want to still look good, excel in our careers, excel as mothers and wives, and have a social life. So I think older women have to also understand the complexities and the intricacies of younger women and the way they think, and start speaking in a language that resonates with them, and distilling some of these biblical principles, in a way that reflects our modern context. So that for me is challenging the status quo a little bit.
Okay, so I'd like to jump in
Can
here.
we just, thank you very much, because I wanted to say that, can we just kind of round off with this round the conversation of it with this, just, deep diving into this. And I like the fact that, she said, well, modern women, the proverb said, well, woman, if she was here right now, you guys know my own thinking about this. She's gonna be having takeaway. You know what I'm like. So I like us to talk into that, honestly, right? So here we're talking about religion can be a problem, right? To live in our diversity, which God really created, right? God is so beautiful in all of us and in different ways. But I think that if we got to heaven, we'll be amazed how much fun is going on there. And that there is takeaway. Okay.
So, Mama. Hello? Apostle. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
we're here. We're
Okay.
here.
So I just wanted to very quickly, just to state that for me, right, talking about the collaboration and networking that Chito had mentioned in terms of the assignments and the engagement, just finding that intersection. Every woman in her place of leadership must be able to find a connection with another woman in her space. And where I am now as mandate secretary has opened up a whole realm of a whole plethora of opportunities for women from any background, any interest, anywhere you want to throw your tackle, there is something you can do. We have, like she said, she's looking at the disability community. That is such a community in need in the FCT. I'm not even talking about any other place. From the primary healthcare requirements to the skills, education, just basic things, just basic in terms of health, care, in terms of wealth creation, in terms of educational opportunities. There is so much to do that can be done in the now that's immediate, just immediate intervention. And that with Chito, we are beginning to work already on some, I'll call them not necessarily quick fix, nothing is really quick, but in terms of the quick connects that we continue to throw the tackle, go out with that. I also would say that when it comes to as women, as older women, with well, we've gone beyond the Gen Z. We now have the Alpha generation, and Alpha generation, the context of, I would even call it survival, in terms of their psychosocial development and the way in which they live in a digital space, they live online, their own reality, and it's their reality is something that really challenges you understand, my generation, but I'm beginning to learn. Yes, it's one thing to learn the language, but I think the most effective channel of communication, language of connection, authenticity, being as genuine. The other day, Apostle Obi, you were teaching me and a number of us about the fact that when it comes to teen rebellion, confront it. You don't use too much English to say this thing. It's not about being a Nigerian parent. It's really about the fact that certain things run on tracks, and tracks are what they are. Talking about which one of my children is going to be now. So I better get online to talk to that son so that it doesn't. I have rejected him and thrown him out of the. trying to get, this language, trying to find and communicate with them from a position of authentic. It's not even about empathy, just being authentic and real. And but at the same time, understanding that they are not your mates, they are not your friend, you are their parent. And you're going to have to very properly, not just assume, but stay on that position of parenting your your children, even as you parent a generation around them and with them, because we find that we are mothers of others. I'm not just the mother of my four biological children. I am the mother of anyone I have the privilege, let me put it that way, an opportunity to connect with, to identify what I see as a challenge, to be able to properly redirect what I see as toxic through a non-toxic conversation as genuine, because the truth will always make you free. And may the language of truth be in my tongue. They say a wise woman will build her house, build her community, will build her society around her. And it's not just the home, it's building lives. So in that same way, it says upon the rock and he is the builder. I I am just being directed in how to build. I'm a laborer in his vineyard, so he's directing. It's like, have the laborers go and get this. They don't really understand the quantities that we use in terms of raising the building, but they are directed, so they can go. They bring, they do all that. So may we all be led. I say the greatest for learning. So we just keep learning.
I thank you so very much. I want to bring you guys back to that question, and I want to we're just rounding off now. Thank you for your time. I want to bring us back to the question I asked Datari, and I'd like our you all let's just round off. Again, deep diving into that. I like the fact that Datari was kind of highlighting the Proverbs 31 woman, and we just heard, Dio talk about another verse of scripture about a woman building. But here, that was child. There's a question: how can women in leadership positions effectively challenge and change the status quo to create more inclusive environments for future generations of female leaders, right? So creating opportunities for future generations to, be able, to, like you all have pointed out, collaborate, being a right mental state to fulfill their destiny as, humans, right? That's appointed. I believe in that, to, I don't believe in tokens. I believe that the honor I get, honor I have earned as a person. So, I just would like us to finish on that note to hear what each person has to say about how you can challenge the cultural modes, change the status quo to create more inclusive. This is very important. And what I love about this conversation is that a lot of positivity has come out of this, even, clarity. I'm trying to sum up things and that people can get a picture of the kind of solutions that we're proffering. So please, in your final statements, please give us solutions to how, from a divine principle, from a faith, perspective, right? You know, how uh, can we break some of these challenge some of the status quo cultural um, trends and enter into this in leadership, women leadership, from a faith perspective, you know, in entrepreneurship, raise generations of women that are going to create wealth, that feel, that they can enter that space and are not token wives, token women, and all of that, and women that can come into governance, without having to literally fight, their way there. How can we challenge and change the status quo to create more inclusive environment. So please, in the few minutes that I have, 6 minutes, if each of you can please contribute to this. Yes.
Okay, I'll go first. There's a popular saying, I've heard it a few times, and I don't know how many others have heard it. When you get to the top, send the ladder down. I think that women who get to leadership positions have a responsibility to help other women to get to that position or to other positions on that level. I work in an industry that is very male dominated. The engineering profession generally is male dominated, but it's worse in rail. So rail is a kind of industry where you walk into an office and everyone, or I would say 90% of people in that building are above 50. And I'm not exaggerating. And it's a real problem because they are trying to above 50 and are men. And it's a case, so it's a real challenge because they're actively trying to recruit younger people because in a few years they're going to have a case of mass retirement and they wouldn't have enough people, and not to talk of women. Now, in my former organization where I worked, there were some women who were leaders in this organization. And what they were doing at the time was they had this women's network, and they had active schemes where they were empowering women. And actually, one of the best things I learned from that organization was a training course that they organized for women who wanted to get into leadership positions. We learned how to be assertive with our communication. And to be honest, I wish I had gone through that training course at the beginning of my career, because a lot of things that happened to me in the workplace, I would have probably had the right response, because I've had so many different comments, different things said to me by people in the company. And if I had gone through this course beforehand, I would have had the right response and I would have had the right approach to deal with these things, and not from a case of being confrontational, but from a case of wanting to make them aware of the effects of their comments on me, or the effects that their comments could have on people who are trying to find their way in an industry as competitive and as male dominated as engineering. So women in leadership positions can have schemes like mentoring schemes. They can have things like training courses to help women learn how to be fine tune their communication skills, because communication is very important. Assertive communication, being able to pass information across to other people without being biased or having a tone of anger. Because once you start talking, people tend to start attributing being angry to a woman or being too emotional. They tend to say women are very emotional. But being able to communicate without having that impression of being too emotional or being too the right word right now, but yeah, being able to communicate assertively to get your points across without any form of bias. So having these schemes, training courses to help women, and also just mentoring, coaching, or even making yourself available. Because what we tend to see is that women get to these positions and all of a sudden they're not available. You can't reach them on the phone. You can't have a conversation with them. You try to talk to them and they're either off to a meeting, or they can't even sit and have coffee with the younger people or with other people who want to just have a chat, who just want to tell you what's been going on with them. So when we get to those positions, let's try not to be proud. Let's try to make ourselves available to other people and have real down to earth conversations with people, just so that they know that we're people too and we understand where they're coming from, because we've been in their positions before, and then try to help them. I've worked with women who have been, I don't know. I don't know if they were just trying to bring me down. I've worked with women who have been very negative in their approach or in their communication with me, and I don't think that's the way women in leadership positions should be, because you get passive aggressive, a lot of passive aggressive behavior from some women who get to leadership positions, and that doesn't help anyone. So what I'll just end this by saying, when you get to the top, send the ladder down. And the fruits of the spirit, be kind. Because if you are kind, you would kindness, very important, and love. Because if you are kind to other women, you wouldn't want to see them hurt and you wouldn't want to see them stagnated in their career or remain in the same position or at the same level for 20 or 30 years.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. So, Dr. Chito, your perspective in that area, and we'll be closing. Thank you so very much, everybody. Again, please, you can.
Okay, I'm just going to start by just a quote. I love quotes. Everybody can hear me well. By Sandra Day O'Connor. She says, "As women achieve power, the barriers will fall. As society sees what women can do, as women see what women can do, there'll be more women out there doing things, and we'll all be better off for it." So I read that quote because that's what leadership is about. Sometimes seeing women in leadership positions allows others to inspire to be in that role as well. And leadership is not only owning a business or owning or leading some group. Leadership is really even in your home, in your in immediate sphere. Leadership is a kind of a skill and a tool that everybody should have a part of or a bit of. And I think that for me as a leader is like she said, I love that. That quote, I love quotes. I'm gonna take that quote. I love it. And just knowing that you have to make other women rise. You gotta pull women up. And one thing I want to really make clear, because some people when they talk about empowerment, we use the word so often, and we don't really define what we mean when we say empowerment. And there's a definition I really love that talks about is defined as promoting women's sense of self-worth, their ability to determine their own choices, and their right to influence social change for themselves and others. So if you look at the definition of empowerment, you can't even use empowerment as a crutch. You're not going to work that way. It's an inner, like self-development. It's really much an inner thing that allows you to really come out and say, like that song that says, "I'm coming out," allows you to say, okay, break the shell, I'm coming out. And I think when you're in a position of leadership, you should be able to mentor those in your field or in your organization or wherever, and just try to bring out the best in that person. See their talents. There's so many hidden talents. See their skills and push them to be bold and embolden. That's empower them to be who they've been called to be on earth. We all have a purpose. We have a destiny. And I love what Data said also about. I mean, you gave good talk there. I always tell people that I'm not. Um, a woman, people say, "Oh, you're a woman. Oh, great. You're a woman who's a doctor." I'm just a doctor that's a woman. And I always tell people that's what it is. I'm ready and it's even it's playing field for me, and I think that's really all I'm gonna say about this. And I think that's something to take, learn the true meaning of what empowerment is, and that's how you can join that movement of inclusion, in no matter where you work or where you are.
Datari, Majojo.
I would say for me, I'll just focus on one thing that really is a passion of
Your
mine.
camera's frozen again. It's frozen again,
Apologies,
right?
apologies. It's
Yeah,
a
it's not.
network.
It's not. It's the internet. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, apologies. I think I'll focus on something that's a real passion of mine, and that's because I own a digital marketing agency and we're in the social media space. I just want to emphasize the importance of women actually amplifying what they are doing. Post pandemic, I think we women, social media opened up channels for us to really tell our stories. And I believe that our stories are there, our journeys and our stories, both the highs and the lows, are there to inspire other women. The lows, for me, during the pandemic, I was shared a lot of my experiences as a new mother, as a new wife, and the feedback that I got from a lot of women was that they felt like they didn't have to be perfect. They felt that we're all going through something, we're all striving to be better, but there is a journey and there is a process. And often people don't get to see that in the former, I would say, dispensation when it was just celebrities that were out there and celebrities that we were looking up to and aspiring to be like. We didn't really get to see their journeys. We didn't really get to see how they got there. So it looked very unattainable to be able to achieve some of the things that they did. Now, with the proliferation of social media, women like us who are impactful in our own spheres actually can use our individual platforms to inspire other women in a way which is reachable to them. And literally, storytelling is the key to that. I understand that, pre-pandemic, a lot of women, they say, "I'm not a social media person. I don't want to be out there. I don't like taking pictures and stuff like that." And that's perfectly fine. But I feel like if you do have an opportunity, even if it's once in a while, and there's something that's going on in your life, whether it be good or bad, I tell you, years ago, I hated social media, and I used to feel that me coming out and sharing things is boasting. Like, why would people care about this? Or do I look like I'm boasting, or I'm trying to, you know, hype myself up? But there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. I think one thing that Dr. Chito said, which is so true, in showing what you're doing and amplifying your achievements, you're actually inspiring so many other people, whether it be the good or the difficulties, the challenges that you've overcome. And, these days, a lot of people don't have the time to really delve into books and read. And like I said, there's now more of a distance between us and celebrities, because we found out that, a lot of what they put out there is smoke and mirrors. But individuals like us, we have a unique opportunity. And I believe that the onus is now on us now as Christian women to own that narrative, to take up space in the digital space, to take up that market share, and not just leave it to, people that may not have the right values and the kingdom principles to be the loudest women in the room. I feel that that's another way that we can really challenge the status quo and stand up as women. It's something that I say to women every single day, and I will keep on saying, come out there, share your achievements, share your highs and your lows, share, your journey, because you don't know who it's inspiring, you don't know who is watching you, and whose life is being impacted and can change just by seeing what you're doing. So
All right, ladies, thank you very much. It's been a really rich conversation for me. It's been very, very positive. I want to thank you very, very much, every one of you. And I hope that our viewers also have been impacted, have had insight into some of the struggles of women and how we can challenge status quo, how diversity really is a biblical principle that could be used, possibly to positively to encourage inclusion. And I like some of the points that you guys have brought out here, that there was mentoring was really highlighted, and so as Dr. Awai says, when you get to the top, send the letter down. If you're watching us, I just want to thank these amazing women who have given us their time and have spoken from the place of their expertise. Leadership is about inspiring others. I want to thank you all, and I want to congratulate you for the great work you're doing in predominantly male dominated spheres. And I want to say that what a privilege it has been to journey with every one of you, and to serve as a mentor in your lives. I was saving that for the last, every one of you. So thank you very much for your time, and God bless you. And yes, 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 it's a whole month of celebrating women. If you're watching us, I hope that you feel, and you're a woman, I hope you feel celebrated. And if you're watching us, you've been part of this conversation, you're a man, I hope that what you've heard from this amazing professional individuals who said, look, take me as I am, what I have. I hope that have you have been inspired by them, and that you're going to make some adjustments. Thank you again, ladies. It won't be the last time. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed doing this. And again, I want to thank you, Awai, all the way from England. I want to thank you, Dr. Chito, very busy proprietor, medical director, and some in the street language, owner of Tabitha Medical Center. Thank you, Data Ray, digital media consultant, lawyer, and international lawyer, and all of that. I just really thank every one of you for your brilliant minds. And really, like I said, I'm really proud of you guys. And also Dio, who's gone, and Jumai, who could not join us. What amazing ladies that you are. Please enjoy the rest of the month, every one of you, and I hope that you also live by the principles that you have taught us. I am so proud of you guys. I've been so inspired. Thank you very much for your time, and God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.